Welcome to Beyond Borders, the Immigration Evaluation Podcast. Whether you're just starting to explore how to add immigration evaluations to your practice, or you've been conducting evaluations for years, this is the place for you. I'm Dr. Mariella Shibley, and I can't wait to share today's episode with you. Hi. Today, we're going to talk about a question I hear all the time from mental health providers, especially those who are earlier in their careers or who don't have a doctorate degree. And the question is, can I conduct immigration evaluations if I only have a master's degree or if I'm not licensed yet? And I know that there's a lot of confusion and anxiety around this, but here's the truth. Your degree and licensure status are often not the most important factors when it comes to doing immigration evaluations. In fact, several other things weigh a lot more heavily. I've been training and supervising psychological associates for years. These are clinicians who are either pre-licensed or working towards licensure, and I've never once had an issue come up because of their degree level or licensing status. Not in court, not with attorneys, not even when reports were reviewed by judges. So when I say that this isn't just theory, I mean it. I've seen this play out successfully over and over again. Now, one of the biggest concerns that I hear is, well, what if my degree gets challenged in court? And to be fair, that's a very valid question. And yeah, especially for master's level clinicians, there is a chance that the opposing attorney will raise your degree as an issue. But when that happens, the key is to kind of flip the script. So you take it right back to Rule 702 of the Federal Rules of Evidence, which defines who qualifies as an expert witness. So that rule makes it crystal clear that a person can be considered an expert if they have knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education, not if they have a specific degree, not if they're licensed, but if they have the background to help the adjudicator understand something that matters in the case. So when someone questions your qualifications, you don't need to shrink. You just need to be ready to explain how your education, your training, and your clinical experience make you qualified to do this work. And let's be honest, most graduate programs don't offer a course in immigration evaluations. In fact, I only know of one, and it's the course that I teach here at a university in San Diego. So if you're doing this work, chances are that your immigration-specific training came after you got your degree. That's true for most of us. And that postgraduate training, whether it's continuing education, mentorship, hands-on experience, or specialized supervision, is exactly what builds your expertise. That's what counts. And here's something else that people often overlook. Not all immigration cases are adjudicated in immigration court. A huge number of them are handled administratively by USCIS, that's the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. That means that there's no opposing counsel, no courtroom testimony, and no one standing there trying to discredit you as an expert. So in many cases, the fear of your degree being challenged just doesn't really apply. Now, with that said, you still want to be smart about how you present your work. You don't want to run the risk of your report being dismissed or not taken seriously just because of your credentials. That's why, especially in higher stake cases, or when your report might end up in front of a judge, it's so important to emphasize how you meet the criteria of an expert witness. So you want to spell it out, explain your background, talk about your clinical experience, your training in trauma or immigration-related issues, and any relevant populations that you've worked with. So you want to help the reader or the court understand exactly why you are the right person to speak on this matter. Now, you definitely want to be mindful to not come across as an advocate, right? So you want to highlight your training and experience, but not necessarily your advocacy when it comes to this work. So let me bring in a quick example. Say you have two clinicians. So we have Susanna and Jade. So Susanna is a licensed psychologist. She's been practicing for 3 years. Her specialty is eating disorders and substance use. She speaks Spanish and teaches a graduate level course in human development. So on paper, her credentials are pretty solid. Then there's Jane. Jane has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. She's still accruing hours towards licensure, but she's been working with a nonprofit that serves undocumented immigrants for 15 years. She started as a volunteer, then became an intern, and now she's a director of clinical services. She's had intensive training in trauma and abuse. She's written dozens of reports for immigration cases, and she supervises others doing related work. So if you're an immigration attorney trying to support an asylum claim, who would you choose? If you're thinking Jane, you're absolutely right, because even though Susana has the advanced degree and the license, she doesn't have the experience that really counts in this context. She doesn't have the background in immigration trauma or asylum. So if she were cross-examined, the government attorney could easily poke holes in her credibility as an expert. Jane, on the other hand, may not have the highest degree or license yet, but she has the actual expertise. She knows the population. She's trained in the right areas. She's done the work, and that's what matters. Now, of course, if you're pre-licensed, you need to be working under supervision. You want someone who not only has the legal qualifications to supervise you, but also understands this kind of work and can meaningfully support your evaluations. That person should review and co-sign your reports and help guide your clinical judgment. Quick break. If you love what you're hearing and want to get started with immigration evaluations, grab my free introductory guide to immigration evaluations. It's linked in the description box, and it is packed with everything you need to know about the different types of evaluations, writing strong reports, and avoiding common pitfalls. Download it now. Now let's get back to the episode. Now let me share something more concrete that you can do right now to strengthen your credibility in your reports if you're not doing it already. So I always start my immigration evaluations with a paragraph that establishes my qualifications, not just my degrees, but my actual expertise in this specific area. So I talk about the number of evaluations that I've completed. And honestly, I think that's way more meaningful than just saying how many years you've been practicing. Because if you think about it, you could do 15 evaluations in 15 years. Or you could do 100 evaluations in just 2 years. So which sounds more impressive, right? So I also make sure to mention my immigration-specific training, the fact that I've presented at AILA conferences, that I lecture on immigration and mental health topics, and of course, that I literally wrote the textbook on conducting these evaluations. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, I haven't written a textbook, and that's totally fine, but you can absolutely highlight whatever expertise you have. Maybe you've attended multiple trainings on trauma-informed care for immigrants. Maybe you've worked extensively with asylum seekers at a community clinic. Maybe you've co-presented at a local conference or written articles for your professional association. So the point is to paint a picture of someone who didn't just stumble into this work, someone who has intentionally built expertise in this area. So when you lead with that kind of introduction, you're not just listing credentials, you're telling the story of why you're uniquely qualified to speak to this person's experience. And if you're ever in doubt about whether you're qualified to serve as an expert in a particular case, talk to the referring attorney. They're the ones who know the legal context and who can help you figure out whether your background is a good fit and whether your concerns are valid. So don't sell yourself short just because your degree doesn't say doctor. If you've done the work, you belong in this space, and you're absolutely needed here. Thanks so much for listening today. If this episode gave you a new perspective or reminded you of your worth, please share it with a colleague who might need a little boost too. And stay tuned for more episodes where we dig deeper into the ins and outs of immigration evaluations, how to build your skill set, and how to step into this work with confidence. Take good care, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a review or shoot me an email. I'll see you next time.